Amateur hour. Hooray. All right. Good morning. Love it.
Oh, wow.
I have to quit. I have to quit this show. I have to stop doing this show sometime very soon. I'm done. I'm sick.
Even
I'm sick.
why are you
Um,
tired?
I'm just sick of it. I'm not enjoying this load shedding situation. I'm not enjoying doing the show anymore. I'm waking up late for it, which means I'm not into it. It's just got to stop. It's got to stop. That's it. It's enough.
Where's the holiday?
Yeah, damn, dude. Are you kidding? Need a holiday. Yeah. Desperately. Gotta get off this thing. Off this train.
That's what I find a reset. That sometimes that's what you need. You just need a reset. You need some time away from the microphone, away from the people, away from your own house, right? And
Yeah.
then you it's a reset button.
I was
Or
talking
not.
to no, you're right. You're exactly right. I was talking to Melinda Ferguson yesterday, who's written this incredible book
Oh,
called
wow.
Bamboozled. Yeah. And she was talking about how, she kind of rediscovered the passion and the fire. I haven't rediscovered that fire and that passion. And we've been doing this morning show for 8 years. And I honestly, I'm finding it very like uninspiring to talk about things at the moment. And it used to, I mean, it's my job, right? I should be talking about things I care about. It's like I just, I mean, I think about politics, for example. Don't know if you saw, because it's going around like virality at the moment. Rob Hersov has done another speech with Biz News, and he's talking about like the ANC and kind of how the ANC is a disaster and blah blah blah. It's all stuff we've heard before, but it's good to kind of hear someone in business, because all of them have so little courage. So good to hear someone in business actually speaking about it. But I listen to this and I'm like, yeah. I mean, like what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about. Am I that into it? No. Which means I'm probably burnt out.
Yeah, it sounds like burnout. Sounds
Yeah.
like burnout, and maybe it sounds like you need a different conversation. What you need to do is you need to rethink what you want to talk about and what you want to contribute to the conversation. And maybe some of the people that you're speaking to aren't, because we speak to people every day, you know this, and every time some of the stuff that we're talking about is heartbreaking, it's horrendous, but every now and again there's just mind-blowing clarity about some of the things that we could be doing differently, that we should be doing better. I told you, like 2 weeks ago, I was hosting some guests that we took down to Mutu with us from Israel. And the one gentleman we were with, the rabbi who runs youth movements. He organizes and sets up youth movements and has done from all over the world. In Nepal, he was in Port-au-Prince after the earthquake. He was everywhere, right? And for me to walk away, and then we had a group session with about 52 people in the village that we were in Mutu. And to walk away with him blown away by these young people we were with, and the fact that they are good kids with incredible capacity, not just to be happy and to love, but the potential, and the fact that what has been missing in their life is opportunity. And how do we connect them with opportunity, and the fact that nothing's going to stop them if given opportunity, these young people can soar. And how do we give opportunity? Obviously, that makes me angry on the one side, that we live in a country that would curtail the potential of those young people simply because they are far from the center, simply because we have blah, 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 a failing government, blah, 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 right? But on the same side, it makes me feel like, wow, okay, so for a person coming in from the outside with fresh eyes, look at what they see can do. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe
Yeah, we
we
need
need to front of different people, young man.
We do. We need fresh eyes and ears, and that includes like not having me do the fucking show every day. That's what I'm reckoning. I think that I'm the bad ingredient that needs to be replaced at this point. No, seriously. I mean, like, look at this from a programming point of view. You know, I've been in radio and television for 25 years now, and I've talked about all the things I think I want to talk about. There's very little now that is uncovered that needs to still be done. We've said all our things. We've had our say. We've made friends. We've made enemies. I think people know that we don't, you know, on this show especially, and you know this, Phumi, more than anybody because you're the same. You don't say things to please people. So now we've done that. So what's next? I mean, I'm just like, I need to do something completely different. I'm just over it. And I don't want to sit here and moan about it in front of the audience either. But you know, on a day like today, it just comes up, and then I've got to make a decision. So I maybe we'll do today's show, and then we'll see how it goes, huh? But maybe not.
When's your holiday?
When, please? You tell me. I don't have to do the show anymore. I think I can find other things to do. No, we were going to go. That was cancelled. Everything that has meant to happen in the last couple of weeks that we've planned has just been cancelled. Not through any fault of our own, but you know, a bunch of things have just been postponed and cancelled and moved. So that's
that
also part
will irritate you. That too will make you feel like, because you were looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, there are a lot of people who are saying like, "Oh no, please don't send me messages about how wonderful I am because that's just going to irritate me." Let's just leave it alone, and I'll get over
sending
it.
you messages of how good wonderful you are. I saw the message from about going in September because it is September. Tracy, you know, Tracy takes pictures at births. One of the listeners.
Yeah, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's September, so it's her busy season. Do you know how many people are born in September? All those made in December babies.
That's right. Those are the ones who are made at New Year. They're born now.
Yeah. I think it's just in the whole December, summertime, summer living, fun times.
Well, I mean, this is my favorite time of year. So if I'm feeling this way now, that's not because of circumstance or the timing. So it's
Why
probably
is this your favorite time of year?
I love it. Spring is the best. Are you kidding? Everything's in renewal. It's bright. It's beautiful. It's fresh. Smells good outside. It's nice. It's my favorite thing. But
driving into the studio this morning, because obviously I'm not driving at this time. I'm not driving at this time anymore to come into the studio, but driving into the sunrise. Wow. On the freeway. Sun rising, nice orange hues.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's magnificent.
Blah, blah.
All right. Well, let's look at a couple of news headlines this morning because that's what's going on. That's what everybody's talking about today. So the first thing that everybody has something to say about is McDonald's are closing for the Queen's funeral on Monday. Oh, well, thank God for that, because the one thing I was worried about was that McDonald's wasn't showing enough respect. You know, of all the things that were bothering me in the world, it was like, oh, McDonald's are open, guys. It's so disrespectful. What are we going to do? Well, yeah, it turns out, according to the BBC, McDonald's will close for the Queen's birthday, which is obviously very bad news. For
all the people who work there. No, but you know what I have been thinking about? Because last night, I saw the queues of all the people now that she's in London. I was wondering that those people, and they're saying some of them are going to be waiting in the queues for up to 30 hours. So I was wondering about two things. I was wondering, what are they doing about the toilets? And what are they doing about food?
Well, okay, you're right, because last night I turned on the TV before the power went out, and they said that there were people lined up that would be there for 23 hours. So,
well, I saw a 30-hour wait in some places. And I was like, what are they going to do about the toilet?
Right. What do they do? Because they don't have toilets all the way there. Do you ask someone else to wait for your place in the queue? You pop out to the loo, then when they need to go, you keep their place. I suppose that's what they would do. You know, the English is so polite with each other that they probably would. Oh, all right, you need to go to the loo, love. All right, I'll stay here and look after everything. I'll keep your place in the queue, and you go off and have a pee.
Because they also, a lot of people they were talking to on BBC and Sky were not young, hey? They're not the kind of people that can knipe it very long.
Well, I mean,
They
listen, no one
didn't
can
look
hold
like
it for 23, 24, 30 hours. But also, what do they eat?
what
Where
are
do
they
they
gonna eat?
where do they sleep? I mean, you know, a queue moves even if it moves slowly. So you can't sleep because if you fall asleep for 5 minutes, you're gonna miss your place in the queue. So what do you do? And like, is there anything in the world? I mean, I do admire people who do this, right? Because wow, you care enough that you are going to go and get into a queue and wait for a whole 24-hour day, which is something I wouldn't do for anything. You could give me like a bar of gold. And I don't think I'd wait 24 hours in a queue.
I was trying to remember because in Moscow,
Mm,
you know, they have Lenin's mausoleum. There
yes.
are queues. And it doesn't open every day. And when we were in Moscow, I went on before I knew that it doesn't open every day. I went on the first day and thought, oh, I'll check out the queue and get in the queue, and then it was closed. And I came back on a day that it was open, and I was astounded at the queue. I did not expect to see a queue that long. I mean, it's been there for like almost 100 years right now, right? But still,
Correct.
queues of people. But that queue
Mm.
was quite a fast moving queue. I think we were there for about in the freezing cold, in the January freezing cold of Moscow, probably about 45 minutes.
Yeah, but the Russians are really good at queuing. They've been doing that for food, for shelter, for housing, for I mean, you know, that's you learn that with communism. The English have no excuse. Like, what's their problem? Why would they do it?
I
Mm.
I really hope like the BBC does like picks a couple of people that stand in the queue for 30 hours and talk to them periodically. and and I wonder if there'll be people who like, okay, no, I'm done leaving.
Well, I have exactly the opposite hope because I haven't been watching this stuff every day, but I mean, I'll watch some of it at night
Really?
before. No, because it's too much pums and there's so much repetition, and you know, you only need to see the kind of highlights package at the end of the evening. Even for someone like me who's interested in history and you know cares about the ceremony and the tradition and where it all comes from and all of that stuff, and I do. I'm interested in it. I would be lying if I said I wasn't. But I don't need to watch it all day. It'll drive me crazy. What I am going to do is I'm going to watch the funeral on Monday next week, and I'm booking off the day. I'm not going to do anything else because I think that'll be a big show and it'll be really interesting to watch and not have to go to appointments and do all of that stuff. So I'm going to clear the diary on Monday. But um, it's enough. And these people that they interview, these people are like these nobodies from all over the United Kingdom, and they go up to these tremendously ugly people in the queue, and they're like, "Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. We're from Sky News. How long have you been in the queue?" "Hello, I've been here since Thursday." And this hunchback of Notre Dame starts like spewing. You could see the spittle coming out of one of her orifices. You're not sure whether it's her eyeball or her mouth or whatever it is. These
I
horrendous
cannot
looking
believe
people.
how many people l- look like Darlene from Mozart that I've seen being interviewed. It was quite astounding. Every time there's like a new type of Darlene.
Yeah, no, horrible looking people. And I mean, listen, I'll show you a picture of one. Oh my God. Let me just find it quickly for you. Actually, no, I saved this picture because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Hang on, let me just find this for you. Wow, it's bad. I've just got to send this to the StreamYard and then I can show you properly. Oh my God, it's hideous. This woman is like, she's busy talking about how sad she is that the Queen's dead.
Oh,
And you know, yeah, I mean, look, but I just watch these people on TV and I'm like, Where have you been? Like, what have you been doing the rest of the time? Like, where did you suddenly come out of the woodwork and why are you on the TV now? Couldn't have done you a favor and not put you on the TV. I suppose, everybody deserves their moment in the sun, but take a look at this. This is one of the women who they interviewed. Here, look at this woman. And it says there underneath, met Princess Diana in 1991. That's her claim to fame. She met Princess Diana back in 1991. I mean, she's more mouth than face. She's truly astonishingly ugly. And this is the kind of person they keep putting on TV. Really awful. I don't even do ATM queues, says Sanele. I loathe queues. That's why I'm no good at pool, because I whack the cue ball so hard out of pure hate. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Cabello says, where's Bakabantu? Since he went to the Bundus and he never showed up again. Yeah, I don't know where Bakabantu is, frankly. I have no idea. I haven't really taken much interest there.
I actually saw in the headline, front page, one of the subheaders on Business Day is about the queues at Capitec Bank. Capitec Bank at queues. They've perfected the art of keeping their customers in queues.
Yeah. No, it's that's not cool. I mean, a lot of people joined Capitec, so they thought they'd have less bank fees and all of that stuff. Now they have to wait in queues. It's not cool, right?
It's terrible.
Congo Chris says that's not a person. That's a thumb with eyes painted on. Does look like
Congo man. No.
British women are not known for their beauty. The men, however.
Is that rebellious, Ruth? Is that a drooling smiley face?
I don't think so. If you consider, I mean, I'm going to find the male version of this woman. I'll show you. In fact, you could just do it yourself. You can turn on BBC or Sky at any point today while they're busy interviewing these people, these peasants on the side of the road, and you ask them, and then you'll see for yourself what we're dealing with. And then you suddenly realize, when you see people like that, you realize, actually, Britain needs a class system. They desperately need it. Because those people that I'd like, this one I just showed this woman needs to be ruled over by a monarch who can make totally dictatorial, tyrannical decisions. This person should not have a say in government. Look at her. Really?
No, Gareth. The problem with the class system is that then you can never cross out all of these bad genes, because then they're always going to be stuck in the same. It's like that. What's his Obi Oberholzer? You've seen his books, right?
Yes.
Out
yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're over there far away by themselves. They don't get to intermingle and variety in the gene pool. That's when you don't have variety in the gene pool.
Yeah, some gene pools shouldn't be looking to get variety. They should be looking to go extinct.
Nah, man, Gareth.
No, seriously. I don't see any value in that woman's gene pool. I mean, it's not like she's the one she's not going to suddenly develop some great new aesthetic skill that has never been invented before. And she's certainly not going to come up with a brilliant brain surgery or an innovation of some kind. So I reckon we can do well for her to go extinct. All right. I'm not hearing myself for some reason. I don't know why. There's a bit of feedback. The Department of Home Affairs has announced an issuing of IDs and passports has been delayed. This is another disaster from the Department of Home Affairs. They are not able to issue some smart ID cards and passports after a power failure at the office in Pretoria. Yep, you heard that right. They've said all live capture documents first need to be cleared at the back office before being issued.
What?
Yeah, they have a generator and they have 4 uninterrupted power supplies. But the department says the issue is impacting their backup power. Issuing of birth, marriage, and death certificates is unaffected, but they say technicians are working around the clock to ensure services are speedily restored. But if you're waiting for an ID or a passport or a card, one of those ID cards, good luck to you. It's going to take a little bit longer. Nice, huh? You get gene pools and you get pants pools, says Vyasan. Yeah, about right. Congo Chris says it's not a gene pool, that's a gene bag. Yeah, that's also right. Well, ESCOM has an entire monopoly. What the actual corrupt fuck, says Jean. Gareth, you're killing me. So funny. Peasants should not be shown on TV. Basitsana says, hey guys, something going on with the app. The sound is choppy. Yeah. As far as I can tell, we're all connected. Everything looks like it's working on this side. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. If it's not working, it's not working. It's another thing we've got to do is can that stupid app. All right, let's just move on. I'm not going to get stuck in the technical issues that I can't do anything about. Okay, in other news, Shame, I don't know if you saw this while we were talking about the royal family. So the only two who weren't allowed to wear military uniform were Harry and Andrew. Harry and Andrew, the two who've been thrown out of the royal family.
Do you know, Gareth, why only Harry and William are the grandkids that were in the procession yesterday?
They weren't, though, because Peter Phillips was in there too, Anne's son.
Who was there? Who was? Peter.
Peter Phillips, yeah, Anne's son was in there as well. But tell me.
Oh, okay. No, I was just interested. I also only saw the highlights. Listen, work is very hectic, so I don't get to see as much TV as I'd like, and you all know how much I love my TV. So
yeah, I think it was William and Harry, and then Anne's son Peter Phillips, because all the male grandchildren who are over like the age of, I think, 18 are the ones who were allowed to walk behind the coffin. Same thing for Prince Philip's funeral, I think. So those are the only male grandchildren. They normally don't make women walk behind a coffin. The only one who said she was going to, and damn you all if you don't like it, is Anne, because she makes her own rules. And you got to kind of respect her. Yeah, you got to respect that woman.
She's
she
like
just
her aunt.
like, I'm doing this way.
She's like her aunt. She's a lot like her aunt. I love her. She was
So there we go.
But also, she's been next to that coffin for hours and hours, through that 6-hour ride, through the flight. She's been there, hey?
People apparently on social media are in love with her because she's been such a dutiful daughter. But there we go. All right. So Ferrari have resolutely avoided using the term SUV to describe their new Ferrari SUV. But I mean, I'm going to show you a picture of this, and you tell me if it looks like an SUV or not. And would you buy such a thing if you had unlimited money?
How do you say that name?
Okay, let me try and read it. It is called a Purosong. Okay. Purosong, which means pure blood. Sang is blood in French. Puro, obviously, puro, pure. So here's what it looks like. You tell me if you would drive something like this. And I mean, like, even if you had unlimited money, because obviously that would be the reason that you would drive something like this. But here it is. That's what it looks like. What do you think? What do we make of that?
I can't see it.
You can't see it?
No, it didn't come up. The picture of the woman came up again. Ooh, okay.
Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Well, there it is. They've chosen this sort of gunmetal gray version with yellow on the brakes. It's got the yellow Ferrari badge on the side, just under the side mirror, and it's got this very kind of svelte look to it. It's very streamlined. It's beautiful, but it's an SUV. If you're going to get a sports car, don't get an SUV. If you're going to get an SUV, don't get a sports car. Or is that me being a purist? What do you think?
I think everybody is trying to get in on the Porsche Cayenne, because Porsche Cayenne has been, Macan have been incredibly successful. They really have been incredibly successful for that Porsche brand. So I think everybody is trying to cash in. They're like, okay, so people are buying these SUVs, maybe.
Well,
but it looks a bit like, you know what it looks like for me? It looks like what's also a Porsche, not an SUV, but oh man, that elongated Porsche.
Not a Panamera.
Yes,
What is it? Is it a Panamera?
Panamera. It looks
Yeah.
like a Panamera. It looks like a
Mm.
Panamera, and it doesn't even look that SUV. Doesn't look
Okay.
like it's got enough ground clearance there.
Here's a voice note quickly
How
for
much
this
it's
morning.
gonna be?
No, I don't know how much it is. Do you want me to look it up quickly for you? Hang on a second.
Yeah, just so I can put it in my just projections.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a look here. Low profile tires. It goes through the whole breakdown of the thing. Oh, here we go. About a 390,000 euro price tag.
Cool.
So 390,000 euros. So what are we looking at then in terms of rands?
And that's kind of like, and that's the bare minimum, right? So that's the one that doesn't even have the
6 to 7 million rand, Pums. That's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And of course, that's if you can get one, you know.
So yeah,
So we
either that or the
shall see.
Urus.
Yeah.
That
You
or
prefer
the
the
Urus.
Urus. Okay.
No, I hate that car. I hate it. It's a terrible car, the Urus.
Here's a little
They
voice
should-
note. This is from one of our listeners this morning. Take a listen to this.
Just catching up on this morning's show podcast. So Mpishe his neighbor vacuums at 11 p.m. Mpishe, you might want to check if your neighbor has babies. That's how some babies go to sleep, eh? I suggest you move. It's gonna be a while. Which brings me to my suggestion for the 24-hour service thing. I think at least the daycare should be open 24 hours. You know, when you get sick of your kids, just take them there.
We were asking yesterday, Pums, like what sort of things should be open 24 hours a day? Because there are less and less places that are open 24 hours a day. And what would you need at any given point in a 24-hour cycle? And people were saying, well, you know, a pharmacy, some of the medical places. Some people were coming up with some pretty wacky ideas, but there we go. That suggestion is that we should have daycare open at 24 hours.
There used to be a place here in Joburg. Actually not far from the studio here in Calvin, called the Baby Hotel. And which on paper sounded like a good idea, but obviously it wasn't working because they've since closed down. But like the Baby Hotel was a 24-hour service, and you could drop off your baby and pick it up, and it for 24 hours there was a cycle, and but it obviously didn't take off. I think people with small babies are loath to leave their small babies with strangers at certain times.
Yeah, you would think so. I don't know if that's that would. I'm not even a parent, and I'm not sure I would be able to leave a baby with some stranger. I think that would be scary for parents. But then there's that other point in there, because yesterday on the show, Mpihleng said that his neighbors vacuum at like 11 o'clock at night. So the point was that maybe the vacuuming gets the baby to. Oh yeah. This is what people have to put up with.
Oh, God. Listen, don't get me started with the WhatsApp group in my little community. I know people want to know. Do you know that guy with the wall that fell down? He's still a wall.
Is he still not going to take responsibility for that? He disappeared? Have you guys reclaimed the property from him?
He completely disappeared. Well, the neighbor whose wall fell down is currently in the process of liquidating so that they can the property. Just like,
wow.
The guy just went to ground. He's just, nobody knows. He left the group. He's gone. He's just disappeared. But obviously now the load shedding, generators, all of that kind of stuff. We also have a whole lot of people in our complex who are tenants. So they are renting. There's a new couple and they're tenants, and they have a generator which was on at like 11 the other night. And of course, then the WhatsApp group went into overdrive. Can somebody please turn off that generator that's like buzzing by my window?
this is not just a thing in your estate, because the same thing happened here. I didn't go to the last AGM, but my poor sister-in-law had to go, because what we do in our families, we take it in turns. There's like, it's my turn one month, and then hers the next year, or whatever it might be.
Share the
So
pain. I love that.
she went.
Well,
Yeah, she went this time, and she said there was a big discussion about this, because some people's generators are loud and noisy, and they go on obviously whenever the power goes off. That could be 2 a.m, and then you've got this right next door to your bedroom window. And she was saying some of these people got very demonstrative and angry, because the one woman's like, "Oh, but I've got sleep apnea, and if my generator goes off, I could die. So I can't switch mine off at certain times, and it has to be ready to go at all times." And people got really cross. I mean, in these neighborhoods, this is what happens.
These tenants we checked before signing our rental agreement that our generator, my husband and I have got need medical devices we've got long COVID, they said. And our medical devices, and people were just like, get an inverter, leave us alone. They're like, we checked on the rental agreement, and well, it's not on the rental agreement, but it is on the owners, like builders. You wouldn't have had sight of that. It's not our problem.
Those people, though, will find reasons to get cross, and they will stay cross, Phumi. You're never going to win against people like that. Their moaning gives them a purpose. That's what they live for,
And of course, at 4 this morning, so when we went to bed, you know the drill. When I'm in the studio, it's because when we went to bed, we had no power, and when we woke up, we had no power. Yeah. And the schedule is just all over the place now. Yeah. So the generator was on when we went to bed last night, and again this morning, y'all. So I'm just patiently waiting to see the WhatsApps.
What are you going to do if you've gone and you've got a generator and you're spending money on that diesel or petrol or whatever it is to get the petrol, the power going? You can't. It's not like you can make your generator quieter. It's not like you can, you can smother it in.
Also, because the silent ones, because they are noise reduced, but they also cost for the noise reduction. So
correct.
Hey.
All right.
These are third world problems, guys. Third world problems.
They are, yeah. The T Health Show is back today. You can listen live at 9 a.m. or get the podcast later. You can join the host, Dr. Mark, as he talks to various experts and thought leaders in the medical and lifestyle world. I will be listening. Maybe that's what I need is more T Health, testosterone health. It's brought to you by the T Clinic. That is with Dr. Mark today at 9 a.m. Make sure you don't miss it. Very nice. Also coming up, the burning platform this morning. I'm very excited. We finally got someone from Operation Dudula, Dan Radebe, who's the deputy chairperson of Operation Dudula. We're going to be talking to him, find out what the Operation Dudula people want. What are these guys hoping for? What do they want to achieve? And who are their friends and who are their enemies? And who do they think in South Africa is going to be their allies? And also the Black Africa Fund, Patrick Sewera, who's someone who we've had on before. He's a Zimbabwean-born software and business engineer, and he's interested in how immigrant communities make a contribution to South Africa and what their role in the economy is. So we've got two people at virtually diametrically opposed points of view on the burning platform today, which will make it fun, right, Pums? We're going to have some nice discussions, arguments there, I can tell.
I didn't realize that he was the deputy director. When it didn't say on the that I received, I couldn't find stuff.
Deputy chairperson. Deputy chairperson.
I was Googling to get ready for today's show. Find much.
All right. Well, what else is happening in the world? Let's see what else is going on. Apparently, where's the story here? A couple of things here in the news that I looked at and missed over earlier. You were going to talk about
you better remind us of that. Sorry, I just want to say Ndozo and Elan, you better remind us of those points in the next hour because they will have disappeared.
Oh, the Nhlanhla Lux story. Yeah.
Just remind us because they will have disappeared, ne?
Yeah, well, I
What
think
was I going
I
to
think
talk
we'll have lots to talk to them about. I can't remember, Pums. There was something else that I sort of breezed past earlier on when we started the show, and I'm trying to find it and can't find the story. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Cliff Central, you put it inside an enclosure and it will. Oh, this is interesting. This is from Corona's Boring about like generators and what you can do. If you put the generator in an enclosure, it will reduce the amount of noise drastically. Yes, but you can't let it
But
warm
what
up in
about
the
the
enclosure.
fumes?
Yeah, the
And
fumes,
also,
and
what about the fumes?
it needs to cool. So you need to have ventilation. Otherwise, you're going to cause an explosion. You got to be careful with
Goodness.
these things, man. Yeah, so don't take that advice, I would say, for now. Buy a proper exhaust. I don't know if you could. Can you just put an exhaust on a generator? I don't think you can. Never mind boundaries, says B. We need soundaries. All right. I got you.
Oh gosh, it's so early in the morning, guys. It's so early in the morning. Have you guys been watching Senzo Meyiwa? Have you been following the twists and turns? Did everybody
No.
lose interest after Advocate Defo?
What's been happening? Give us the synopsis, because I know you're the best at summarizing these things.
Jesus, guys, what a mess. So one of Senzo's friends who was in the house on the day of the shooting is a state witness. So he was brought in to be on the stand over the past couple of days. Yo, what a mess. Now, there are moments where he has absolute clarity about what happened when they were outside, when they were smoking, when they were this, da 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 da. And then the minute they ask him questions about what happened inside the house,
Nothing.
he does. No, now he doesn't have clarity. I think the stories that came out at the beginning, not just the beginning of the trial, but after the incident, and what this guy is now saying, hey guys, what a mess. What a mess. And every single time, and I think more and more people, when I see people comment on it on social media, you can see how more and more people are not buying the story that's been out there. And there's a very clear story that people have concluded from piecing on all of these various things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what's going to be, that's not what the case is ever going to be about. And we're clear, there is never going to be any justice for Senzo's murder. And we're just, this is what this is. We're all watching in real time as a case is obfuscated and lies are told and people being protected and so much.
Is it so hopeless, Pums, that we may as well just give up now?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus, that's not good. Yeah, I haven't
That's what
been
I
following.
every time.
And also, there's been so much speculation and like wild, just wild nonsense sown on social media that it's very hard to figure out what's actually happened here and whether or not the witnesses that they have brought are reliable, whether there's anything useful we can glean from them. It's a disaster, right?
It's an absolute disaster, but it's also so scary to watch how the court works. It's also so scary to watch how the court works. And it gives such clarity to see why so many people get away with murder, quite literally, but also why so many people are stuck in prison for very dodgy
Oh
things.
my God.
Right?
Listen.
So on the one side, there is justice that does not get carried out. And on the other side, there is a huge injustice to many other people. It's crazy.
I often think about these stories like the Senzo Meyiwa trial, the Oscar Pistorius trial, the ones that we take an interest in because the people involved are famous. And I wonder how many other situations there are that are probably even more interesting, more intricate, more detailed, more involved, And I think about the difficulty that our criminal justice system must have trying to find someone guilty, to convict someone. Because there's so much more pressure, right? There's huge pressure on these famous people. You know, the Riva Steenkamp, the Senzo Meyiwa. These are massive international stories that everybody knows something about. Even if, like, I don't know a lot about the current detail of the Senzo trial, but I know who we're talking about. I know what happened. It's it's been made into a documentary. There's all these TV shows that come out of it. So it's not like you can ignore it. And yet still, there isn't, not even all of that is enough to bring the pressure to bear to get someone convicted. In Senzo's case, in the Oscar trial, there was no one else you could blame, right? I mean, they tried. He tried to make it up that someone climbed up a ladder. Do you remember? Someone climbed up a robber. It was nonsense.
Listen, I have watched enough crime and investigation channel. I have listened to enough true crime podcasts. Yo, I I have watched enough CSI.
Yeah.
Tell you
No,
that
Simpiwe told me on Wednesday morning, she said that the reason that she and so many other girls she knows like to watch these crime and investigation shows is because they want to figure out how this stuff happens so they can actually protect themselves. So it's almost like a self-preservation thing. That's not why you watch them. You don't watch them for that reason.
It's just gossip. It's like it's the purest form of gossip.
All right.
You know this. It is the purest form of gossip. Like, because it's not just about who done it and how they done did it. It's also just the little things, the who was there, who saw what, and it's just, and somebody, no ways. I'm not watching it because I want to protect myself. If I'm getting into, if I ever found myself
Just
in a
entertainment.
horrendous situation like that, I'm going down all the way, with the fight. I'm taking you with me, niggers.
So Sanele says here, neither is the judge's grooming. What is Sanele on about here with the judge's grooming in the Senzo trial? What is that all about?
You must see what judge. The judge looks terrible. He's unkempt. And he falls asleep. I haven't seen any pictures of him falling asleep in this room.
Hang on, I found a picture of him. Hang on. Let me just. This entertains me. Let's just put this picture up. Thank you. See, Sanela's just made my morning. We find a picture of this judge. Oh my God, this is hilarious. So you don't like his grooming, huh? This is what Sanela says. No, the grooming is shit. He looks a little bit. What's the word? Like startled. Is that a fair thing to say? He looks a bit startled, this judge. Let me see if I can pop.
Snaya says they call him Slutu. Slutu is the Zulu word for like big hair, like if you've got big hair.
All right, like unkempt. Here he is. This one. This is Slutu. Is that the guy?
Oh, Gareth, I don't know why it's not showing up on my. I don't know if other people can see it. Yes.
There he is. Got him?
So this is an early morning one when his hair is still together. But like as the day goes and he slumps into that chair and shame, man. It's hard work. Yes, Gareth. Gareth, we started the show this morning with you kind of going like the work it's like getting to you and it's hard. Yeah. The thing is, even for judges, you see that feeling that you have. Even the judges have that feeling. He comes in the morning, it's been like I don't know how many months he comes in and is listening to all these people and all of this lying on a platform. Before losing his mind and hey, man.
Well,
if we send him a voucher, Carl, we might be like contravening some laws, like we're trying to influence him in some direction or another.
Shame.
He often looks like he wants to be somewhere else, and he often falls asleep. He
I mean, I feel
often
his
falls.
pain. I feel his pain, and I'm totally with him this morning. It's
I'm
he
just
and I,
saying everybody's
he and I
job,
feeling the
Gareth.
same today. All right, well, we're going to be back with the Burning Platform in just a couple of minutes' time. Stick around for that. After 7 o'clock, the Burning Platform coming to you live this morning. Don't go anywhere. This is cliffcentral.com. Phumi Mashiko is holding the fort this morning. She's tolerating me. Thank you, Phumi. And we will be back in just a moment or two.
Welcome to the Third Draft Podcast, the show where we interview. Wait, do I start with who we are?
Catch the
We
show.
chat all about
Content creation.
the
business of content.
the business of content. Yeah, I
and
think
how
you can
much
take
money.
this one.
And how much? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and then I'll be like, how much money or something. You
yes,
know,
yes,
you have to
go.
keep it a bit
yes,
fine.
yes, yes. I'm Sewera,
And I'm Mash.
and we are the host of the Third Draft Podcast. So catch fresh episodes every Wednesday on cliffcentral.com
On YouTube.
and on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I like that. I like that. No, you do that. I like that. That's a good one. Let's take it.
It is time for a brand new episode of The Burning Platform, which this morning is with me and Phumi Mashiko. We'll also be joined by two guests, Patrick Sewera, who is the co-founder of the Black Africa Fund, and Dan Radebe, who is the deputy chairperson of Operation Dudula. So we got lots to talk about this morning. We'll get into what the two organizations that these two gentlemen represent are all about, and hopefully get to the bottom of what's really going on when it comes to South Africa, the huge number of foreign nationals who live in South Africa, what we can do to help make the country a better place for them and for ourselves, and what we can do to build South Africa with the skills of all the people that we can find across this continent and across our own country. So hopefully there's a way we'll come out of this with some positives. Right, Pums? I mean, that's the way we want to build it.
Hallelujah.
No, for sure. So I'm going to welcome first Patrick, who's well known to us. Patrick, it's great to have you back on the show, and thank you for coming into studio this morning. How are you doing?
I'm all Gareth. Thank you for having me.
Sure, what a pleasure. Patrick, just tell us a little bit about the Black Africa Fund to kind of just wake people up again in case they've forgotten since your last appearance on the show. And tell us also about what you've been doing in terms of kind of trying to understand the role that foreign nationals play in the South African economy.
All right. So the Black Fact. So hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Is
you
that-
got to put on record.
There we
There we go.
All right. So the Black Africa Fund exists to figure out how to grow the South African economy, Southern African economy, right? Via the collaboration of Africans, as simple as that. And right now we're working on the distribution of healthcare services, right, via digital means from South Africa, right, into Zimbabwe and vice versa, right? The key to solving immigration in Southern Africa is by not worrying about it at all, but rather figuring out better ways to collaborate and to build a greater economy, right? And so what we're doing right now, again, is we're offering a platform that offers free medical services, right, from Gauteng to the rest of Southern Africa. But right now, within Gauteng only, we're opening up our first center in the next 2-3 weeks or so. And you can come in and see a dentist, optometrist, a general practitioner for free, right? Those consultations normally would cost somewhere around 700 Rand, and you can get them for free from us. And those consultations are done by African doctors, right? And South African is African. And that's the first thing people need to realize, right? We're all in it together.
Yeah, but now let's just clear up a couple of things here before we even get to Operation Dudula and what's going on there. So first thing, you're not really terribly interested in the reasons that we find ourselves in this situation, because it is what it is, right? So we're trying to find, from your point of view, practical ways of dealing with the fact that we've got all these people in South Africa who may or may not be here legally or illegally, but it is what it is. Now we've got to make sure that these people also have some means to look after themselves, some means to make a contribution to the economy, some way of getting medical care in an emergency, that kind of thing, because there's no protection for these people whatsoever. Is that roughly correct? Or are you also an open borders fan who thinks that sovereignty is a made up thing and we don't need to worry about that?
Okay, so I'll start with the last question. I'm not a colonialist. I desperately do not believe that Africans should stay separate when the rest of the world has created larger borders, right? So you look at the US, 300 million people in the border. You look at China, 1.6, 1.3 billion, whatever it is. India, you look at Europe, right? All the borders are gone. And then Africans still live in small little clusters, right? And that's been arranged for manageability. It's not for our own benefit at all. I'll give you an example really on that. So in the past weeks, the MEC of Health in Limpopo was complaining about Zimbabweans coming through the border and getting healthcare services from South Africa. That is South Africa. It is a good thing. That is not a bad thing at all. And the point I'm trying to make...
Mike. His mic's gone.
Okay.
Yeah,
we've got you now.
So that's a good thing for South Africa in the sense that South Africa can grow its healthcare sector, employ more South Africans to service the region. That is not a bad thing at all, right? It's when New York State has a problem with or has capacity in healthcare, has capacity in healthcare that the adjacent state in the US does not have. People can move to that and get healthcare. And that state can grow, employ, right? You currently have a huge surplus of South African nurses sitting on the border.
Yeah, but that's not entirely true. I mean, states like Florida and California are seeing exactly the opposite kinds of demographic movements. And Florida, for example, does not want New York's problems, and New York does not want Florida's problems. So it's fine for you to say that, but that's not entirely true, Patrick.
Well, no, I'm saying you look at it as an opportunity, right? So if you have nurses that are unemployed,
Florida sees New Yorkers coming in as a problem, not an opportunity.
Well, they should look at it as an opportunity, right? I mean, they're not right about that. I mean,
so
politicians tend to look at
but Patrick,
the problem
you can't tell people how to feel about things, is my point. And if you're going to say, for example, that because we've got these arbitrary borders that were drawn by colonial powers some time ago, and that there are South Africans now who get upset when those borders are transgressed, that they must all change their attitude. I mean, that's not going to help, because then they're going to just dig in and get more and more angry, right?
So first of all, I'm not the one saying that. I mean, so a lot of people are saying that, including the Minister of Health himself, right? He came to Limpopo. Sorry, was it Pretoria? right, where the protests were being held. And he came up with one of his solutions, which was, we build the Zimbabweans. Zimbabweans can refer to South African hospitals as much as the Limpopo province refers to Gauteng, right? That's a practical solution that grows his sector, right? There's no downside to that for either states, right? And we've got to start looking at these situations as this. And then back to your initial question, and I think it was around what do foreigners bring? I mean, so the Gauteng as a state or as a province has seen phenomenal growth compared to KwaZulu-Natal or the Western Cape, right? As a result of immigration. Immigration is important. Look at New York, right? New York State is the 27th largest in terms of geographical area in the US. It's number 2 in terms of economic value created. And that's similar with Gauteng. Gauteng is the smallest province. The mining is gone. So where's the growth coming from? It's coming from people coming in, consuming, building, traveling, right? Doing business here. Growth in South Africa, in Gauteng, is a question of Africans coming to Gauteng. If you can point to me any other growth engine other than immigration at this point in Gauteng, then yeah.
No, I don't think there's going to be a lot of argument with you on that front. And in fact, right. You and I have had this discussion before. We don't have an argument about economic growth and the fact that migrants have produced enormous amounts of economic growth in South Africa. But we must get into the healthcare stuff a little bit later on in some detail, because that seems to be an area of some disagreement. It's also where Operation Dudula got involved, and it's where the minister had to, I think it was in Attridgeville at Kalafong Hospital, had to get involved and make some promises, some decisions, and some reservations, let's say, about what he wants to do with this. But Phumi, you can see how immediately it becomes a very contentious issue, because people come in with preconceived ideas, right, Phums? I mean, it's fine to say, well, we're a country that wants economic growth. We're a country that welcomes migrants, especially those with skills. But there's some people who don't want that. There's some people in South Africa who are dead against anyone who's not from inside these very artificial borders.
No, that's not what they want, Gareth. I think one of the things, can I just ask, will you put your mic on mute? Sorry, because it's got an echo here. So when you are talking. But, I think one of the things that we have to recognize about what's happening in South Africa is that it is an issue of competition for resource. When an economy is growing, when people have got jobs, when people have got access to, then this is not a problem. Even if you look at an Operation Dudula-esque movement, right? And when it began and how it found popularity and growth, it's at a time when there has been great economic strife, because we have an economy that is stagnant and people are finding themselves having to compete with resources, for resources. Then people, and it's human nature, right, is what people look for is they look for people that are weaker than them, and then they punch down. That's the problem with what we're having. When the economy was growing, nobody was saying, why is the ANC got a policy and foreign policy of what was Mbeki's quiet diplomacy, watching Zimbabwe implode, right? So nobody was saying, hey, that's problematic and it's going to be problematic to us. Nobody was saying, why is the African Union, the Organization of the African Union, full of leaders that are not holding each other accountable? When the times were good here in South Africa, nobody was saying, why are we running an ad on SABC and everywhere that says South Africa, is open for business? Why is nobody saying we are, alive with possibility, which is an invitation to the world to say we are alive with possibility. If you are looking for possibility, if you are looking for opportunity, this is where it is alive. Nobody was complaining about that. But now, because there is a stagnant economy, because there is not enough to go around, people are feeling the pinch. And unfortunately, instead of holding the people who should be held accountable to book, they are fighting and eating each other up. That's the problem that we have. And I think think Patrick is right. If we look at Africa as a market, if we look at the number of people that are available, if we were building businesses that can grow into the continent, then you are looking at opportunity. But because we want to be so parochial, we want to. South Africa's got 60 million people. 60 million is nothing. It's a business small economy. But if you look at it as, which is why China can grow its economy the way that it does, because they essentially have a whole lot of states that can easily move people and money and goods across all of those borders. That allows for economic growth.
Right. If I can jump in there.
Sure.
Okay, cool. So on the question of Gauteng and why it needs to stay open. And so this is not an argument for open borders. This is an argument for an African state that makes sense, right? None of this stuff makes sense right now. So if you look at Gauteng, right, Gauteng consumes about 40% of all of South Africa's electricity, generated electricity capacity, right? And to put that into context, we look at Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique combined do not consume as much electricity as Gauteng. In fact, it's only half of what Gauteng consumes. That's how significant Gauteng as a state, as a province, as a growth center for Southern Africa is. Gauteng is the only place in Africa where you'd find literally every nationality from the world represented, right? This is where people come to think, to collaborate, and to build, right? And by limiting immigration into Gauteng, you've just limited the South African opportunity, right? And I'll bring that down to the townships, right? And then maybe talk about what we're proposing in terms of how we can cure this xenophobia situation, right? When you look at a township, and we've discussed this before, right? A lot of investment has been made by South Africans into the homes they live, right? And they build back rooms in the back, right? And rent those out to the point where each household attracts from 5 to 15,000 rand a month, right? That's an income no one can ever take away from them. And that's provided for by the fact that Black Africans come and buy from Black South Africans. Black Africans are the only consumers of the product that Black Africans are putting out. We ride your taxis. We live in your homes, right? We buy the product that the Europeans, the Americans, and the white South Africans never bought from you. We are your customer, right? And so that's built a large industry, a significantly sized industry in the townships, right? Where if Gogo retires, she can build a couple of rooms in the back and know someone's going to take them up.
Yeah.
Right. So without that, so let's go door to door like Mackenzie suggests, and kick out people from the townships, right, to benefit his political campaign whilst destroying the incomes of these people. Right? That's why Dudula hasn't taken off in Alex, right? That's why Dudula hasn't taken off in Deep Salute or Cosmo, because the people realize that this is against their investments, which is the largest sector right now in South Africa, right? Maybe smaller than the tax industry, but definitely larger than anything else, which is the backyarding. And it's owned by individual South Africans. Now, what we propose is we would like to invest in that. Black Africans will pay into a fund that basically invests into the township home, and not via the government. We will lend and take the risk, right, that Black South Africans have in terms of building up and setting up homes that we occupy, right? Black South Africans are wealthy if they choose to be, or they can follow the nonsense that Mackenzie and these guys are going on about, and let's see what happens there. But we are your customers. We're your people. Who else is going to buy from you?
Let's see if we can get.
One thing.
Sorry, Pums. Again, your mic. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just asked.
Gotcha.
He's right across from me. I can just ask him to. No, but unfortunately, even though I do agree that we need to be able to move freely our goods and our money, across the borders that we do have. One of the things that I always kind of have a problem with is the problem that we have as Africans is we do not hold our leadership accountable. So you have a fantastic idea and it's a great idea, but I think it is wrong that you have had to leave your home, Zimbabwe, to be in South Africa, to create this idea and know that there's potential for this idea simply because the government of Zimbabwe is failing you and failing the people of Zimbabwe. It's a terrible situation to be in, where you have to be all over the world. Nigerians are the same, all over the world, simply because the government of the day where you are has not met up its end of the bargain. But not holding them accountable does not change. Walking away from this, so where vibrant, young, bright minds such as yourself opt to leave the country rather than fix the country, that too is just as problematic. It's as problematic as the ANC government's foreign policy of saying nothing when African leaders become despots. I think, unfortunately, even though the ideas are great, I think that too is problematic. And they can't be two problems at the same time, both of which need solutions. And I think that one of the Africa's biggest failings is that that's what we do as young Africans, is we walk away from the problem rather than try and fix the problem.
Well, so to respond to that, the reason why immigration has always been a thing for human beings is a question of political and environmental stability, change, right? I mean, you look at Tesla moving its headquarters from California to Texas, right? The politics of a place change over time, and not necessarily to the comfort of the people or to the interest, or let's give it the comfort of the people who live there at the point in time, right? Half of Zimbabwe came from South Africa. They came from KZN. They're Ndebeles, they're Zulus, right? Because of the politics of the time. Immigration is meant for this purpose. Humans must flow in and out of situations for this purpose. And that's why you've seen that movement from California to Texas, and even from Texas to Mexico by Americans, right? Humans must move freely. The generation of jobs, etc., is a question of consumer behavior, not government. And I think we give too much credibility or too much.
I just want to stop you there, Patrick, because we finally got Mr. Dan Radebe on, who I'd like to bring on. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Good morning, everyone, and my sincere apologies for the delay.
No problem, Dan. We're pleased to have you on the show. Dan is the deputy chairperson of Operation Dudula. He grew up during the apartheid regime, was forced to partake in underground activities. Operation Dudula, of course, was born during December 2020, not so long ago, officially launched in January 21. And their main objective is to ensure that South Africa becomes the main role players in the economic space of this country. I don't know if you've heard much of what Patrick had to say there, Dan, but do you want to maybe explain your position a little bit and help us to understand what Operation Dudula is doing and where you guys are at the moment?
Now, it's simple. Although I got to the tail of his statement, Operation Dudula is just fighting for the restoration of our laws. That people, if they come into the country, let them abide by our laws, let them come legally. So let the Labor Department do things according to the law. If it's a scarce skill, people must properly apply for that. It must be proven that we don't have that skill in the country. We cannot have a situation where jobs are flooded by non-South Africans and South Africans are subjected to 350.
Okay. So where do we begin with this? Do you want to bring a counter argument to that point, or do you have no real?
Can I ask a question before we have counter arguments?
Go for it, Bums.
Well, if I understand you correctly, you're saying you are about the restoration of laws, right?
Exactly.
And yet, every activity we see Operation Dudula put out in the social space is not directed at the people who make the laws or enforce the laws, but rather you are attacking individuals who don't have any power in terms of restoring laws or making the laws. Why is that?
I'm sure there must be a misunderstanding there. As you know, last time we said it's unfortunate that we are led by an administration that believes in action before they start listening or engaging with you. But our fight has been always directed to the departments. Our first memorandum on the 17th of May 2021, we took it straight to the mayor of the city of Joburg, which outlined some of our demands, such as they must reclaim all the hijacked buildings and ensure that they convert them into family units and issue them out as RTP units instead of what's happening right now in Johannesburg and the other towns as well, because we realize that it's throughout the country. So we said they must clean up Joburg. You find people selling sweets. Under those sweets, they'll be selling drugs. So we went to the Department of Labor. We went to the union building. We've been having engagement with certain ministers. We were supposed to be having a meeting this week with the Minister of Health. So I don't understand when people are saying that we are attacking individuals. Last time we were in Hillbrook with the police going around pinpointing that this place is a drug den, that place is a drug den. Here it's a brothel, and where you are likely to find underage children. Whilst we are marching with the police, pinpointing, not even a single person was touched.
We also see Operation Dudula people, T-shirts, walking to door, getting into people's houses, demanding of them to give their IDs. We saw you in Kalafong. We saw Operation Dudula people at Kalafong Hospital telling people in the waiting room, we don't want non-South Africans here. Not talking to the hospital administration, not talking to the immigration officials, talking to sick people, standing in queues, waiting to be helped, telling them, we don't want you here. We don't want you to be getting help before South Africans getting help. We saw you getting into people's backyards, pulling out people from their shacks and asking them to show you their IDs. We saw you, Operation Dudula people, going to spaza shops and telling people who own spaza shops, we don't want you owning spaza shops here. This is not us misunderstanding. This is us seeing people who are operating. We saw you in Diepsloot doing a huge march, which eventually ended up with a man being burned to death. We saw Operation Dudula operating in those places. We're not hearing it as a hearsay. We are seeing it videos on your sites, on your Facebook, on your Twitter, people in Operation Dudula t-shirts, people who say they are Operation Dudula people. That is what we see you do.
Unfortunately, I'll have to differ with you on that one.
That's okay. You don't have to respond to it. You don't have to respond to it because it is what we see. Maybe you can tell us, and everybody on the comments is very interested to know what happened with Ntlantlalax, because actually we didn't know anything about Operation Dudula until Ntlantlalax, and now suddenly Ntlantlalax is no longer Operation Dudula. We'd love to know what happened there.
But I won't want to leave some of the points you raised hanging. Such as, for example, the Diepsloot, we have never been in Diepsloot. The day of the incident, Operation Dudula has never been there. Ntlantlalax was there on his personal capacity. Let me just clear that one, not as Operation Dudula. Then the second critical issue is that at Kalafong Hospital, we were taking the message to the CEO of the hospital that make sure South Africans are treated first, and make sure that these people, if they don't have documentation to be here, after treating them, you have got an obligation to hand them over to the authorities. That is the message that we're sending across there. And then I see you are very much interested on the Ntlantlalax issue. It's unfortunate that you didn't know about Operation Dudula. You only saw Ntlantlalax when around the 16th of June, and Operation Dudula has been in existence for a while before then. yes, he's got his organization that is part of, which is called Soweto Parliament, which focuses mainly on issues of service delivery. And that is why on our media briefing, we said it's very difficult to separate the two, because myself as Dan, service delivery issues do affect me. And the members of Soweto Parliament are affected by the issues that we are trying to address as Operation Dudula. So we said, no, because now you are in demand, this thing is growing. People are demanding, there are challenges of electricity left, right, and center. Rather, you focus on Soweto Parliament, address these issues. That was just before the time they were supposed to bring Popala was supposed to bring back a report back to the Sowetans, and he was very hectic at that time. So we agreed that, you know what, just focus on this. You are still energetic, and the people of South Africa need.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to bring Patrick in. So, Patrick, from what you've heard now from Dan, I mean, do you believe that there can be any kind of bridge built between the opinions of Operation Dudula and the kinds of things that you were talking about?
Right. So hi, Dan.
Oh, thank you, Baba.
Great. So the thing you need to understand about Operation Dudula is it's not a real thing, right? They're not aiming for anything clear. So that's why they're talking about everything. Let's fix this, let's fix that, let's fix this hospital crime, etc., etc., etc. And they're not going to do anything. What they're going to do is harass what they perceive is the weakest entity within the ecosystem to make their point heard. We've seen a lot of this, globally. The most successful of bunch of people who did what they're doing were called the Nazis, right? They went around persecuting persons and said, listen, you're not an Aryan, you don't look like this, etc., etc. And they caused big trouble for Europeans for many, many years, right? But they're all gone now. Ultimately, the human race goes back to being human, not to being South African or Zimbabwean or Malawian or Ghanaian. We're humans. And post the colonial era, right, that Dan is in right now, and Dudula, right, we're going to be humans again. We're going to be Africans again. When it comes to employment, so let me just talk about what he brought up, right? There's no relationship between kicking out, immigrants and creating jobs for the locals. That's nonsense. That's never been done anyway. In fact, actually, it was done before by I think the state of California, right, where they haunted, the government haunted the tomato farmers, right, and had them kick out the Mexicans who picked tomatoes, right. Ultimately, the farmers got machines to do it. It's like coming here and saying, oh, fine, the Gareth Cliff is a foreign national. We're going to kick him out and we're going to replace him with JJ Tabani, and the show is going to remain the same. Of course, it's not. It's a totally different product. You can't replace people that way. They're not interchangeable. They're not cogs in a machine. These are human beings. If people who operate within Dudula or anything like that want to create employment, they've got to put in the work, the real work. Or you've got to go out and say, okay, fine. How to get more nurses employed? Well, the Zimbabweans need doctors and nurses, so let's build a big hospital down in Limpopo and invite the Zimbabweans to use that. We have the capacity. We have the constitution, right? We've got the law and the order. That's why they seek. Zimbabweans come to South Africa to buy law and order. You understand? That's what we're interested in, the law and the order. Look at that.
I mean, if their first act in the new country is to break the law by not being a registered, documented migrant, are they really interested in law and order? I mean, this is where someone like Operation Dudula they make a point, because by your very presence then as an illegal immigrant, you're already breaking the law. You can't then claim that you want law and order.
Well, how many illegal immigrants exist in South Africa, right? So first of all, Zimbabweans don't need a visa to come into South Africa. They get a 90-day permit. It's automatic for most Africans, right? If you're a Zimbabwean, you want to come to South Africa, nothing stops you. You've got a passport, you walk in. What are these guys talking about? If what we're talking about is employment permits, we're talking about something very different there.
Okay, yeah, but
Right.
but I mean, also we've got to be very realistic about how incompetent our government is. Our government cannot regulate or document or license or register all the people who we're screaming at them to register. So we're really barking against thunder here because the government are not competent to do this. So why should we take that out on illegal immigrants even?
This is the point that
I asked the question.
Operation Dudula
Operation
says they are about the
says they
restoration
are
of
about the
laws. And
restoration of
yet,
laws.
please,
Yes, please.
There we go. I'll mute it.
Yeah, will you do it? Thanks, Gareth. And yet you don't see them. And you know, I mean, it's for me very disingenuous of Dan to say, "Oh, we were there doing this." Where all the videos we saw all over social media, all over the news, were Operation Dudula people confronting individuals, asking them for all sorts of documentation. On whose authority, I may ask? And all that it feels like to me, and I'd be very interested to know how Operation Dudula is funded, because it seems to me that all Operation Dudula is actually designed to do is distract us from the fact that our government is inept and is not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. I will not be surprised if down the line we wake up one day and find that Operation Dudula is another Bell Pottinger-esque experiment that was designed and paid for by individuals spending billions, as we know, to distract us from how completely and utterly
let's ask
unable to run this country they
let's
are.
ask Dan. Let's have Dan respond to that. Dan, how do you feel about what Phumi said, that you guys are like a distraction, a Bell Pottinger that's been thrown in to disguise the incompetence of our government? What do you feel about that?
I feel very bad, but I wanted to start by saying it sounds as if in all the operations she's selective of the things that she wants to pick up with Operation Dudula. Operation Dudula was as a result of the frustration of South Africans being frustrated by the government. It didn't just, mushroom from nowhere. There were engagements with government that you cannot have our people trapped in the 350s. Please, let's restore our laws. You cannot have a Bangladeshi running a shop, sleeping on top of the meal, urinating in that shop, and still sell this food to our people. Where are the inspectors? Because when we grew up, we used to have health inspectors who were inspecting shops, this and that. Government was made aware of this, and there are videos, yes, probably they could have been seen as harassment, where our members raided those shops, showed the urines and whatever, buckets of urines and waste, sleeping with them in the same shop where they are selling food for. And we ask the same government, where are the inspectors if people have to buy this kind of food here? So many videos that were circulated of expired goods, food being sold from those shops. So it was as a result of the frustration. And Operation Dudula is not funded by anyone. It's not aligned to any political party. That is why I think it's as a result of the frustration of our people. When we've got a trip going somewhere with our members, we calculate how much does the bus cost divided by the number of seats, and then people will contribute towards that because they want to see change. They want to see this thing happening. So it's not aligned to anyone. It's not a project that is created somewhere. No, it's a community based. But let me raise this point. It's always worrying us that when we speak of foreign nationals, Zimbabweans are always the first to jump and say they are talking to us. They are talking about us. We've been always questioning this. How do you travel all the way from Bangladesh or Pakistan, jump all these countries, and come and seek a refugee status in South Africa? Why didn't you go to your neighboring country as the law requires? Now, Zimbabwe, they are getting the attention that they deserve. Because whenever you start saying non-South Africans, they are too quick to jump and say They are talking about us. There are so many millions of non-South Africans here who have occupied the economic space, and we are not about to compromise about that.
All right. So, Phumi, where do we even pick this up? I mean, it seems like we're talking cross purposes in some ways. Do we spend too much?
Patrick wants to answer something.
Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. So here's my thing. When someone's humanity is put to question, or the quality or the person etc is put into question, right? Like Dan just did with the Bangladeshi. You know, the Bangladeshis sleep and urinate on the milli meal they're going to sell to you tomorrow, right? That's dehumanizing an individual. I mean, you're creating a caricature. You're creating a persona, that a characterization of these people that is unwholesome and is meant to create a framework for criminality. Therefore, Dudula can walk into these places because of the poor hygiene. These people continue to do this. They urinate on the bread, and that's rubbish. I mean, this is the kind of talk that ends us all in trouble, right? It seems people forget that when violence breaks out in the townships, it doesn't discriminate, right? Whether you're South African, whether you're Zimbabwean, whether you're Bangladeshi, it's going to be presented on your doorstep. And it starts off with the conviction someone has about someone else's humanity, right? Led by ideas as the one you just presented, Dan, that says that Bangladeshis urinate on the milli meal they sell to you tomorrow. That is a horrible, horrible thing to say about another individual. And it seems to come up frequently, things like this on South African media, you know? And every time this happens, someone needs to call you guys out and say, how dare you say that? These people have allowed South Africans a lower cost access, right, to commodity foodstuffs that they use in their homes every day. And then you come out and you say, okay, fine, these guys urinate on the food they sell you. What have you done for those people that these guys haven't done? You know, they're there every day. They live in the townships. They invested in the townships, right? If it was a German guy coming in, you wouldn't have said that. You're saying it because he has darker skin, because he looks poorer, and his appearance and plays into the caricature you want to create. So that's the first thing. You know, I just, every time I hear guys like Mackenzie and you say things like this, I feel disgusted that you look at another person and say this kind of thing, and then sit there as though it made sense. This is what the Afrikaners used to say about black people, by the way. This is what the Nazis used to say about the Jews. This is how it all starts. Dan,
what do you say to that? I mean, let me give you a chance to reply properly.
Now the thing is, my colleague there, I think, is living in his own universe, because these are issues that are being exposed by community members who live around those people. These people have been around for a while. There's no way it will just be created by someone. We can even share some of the videos with you. But a good historian like you, as you are, and I'm wondering, why is it so difficult for you to take up this fight with the government in Zimbabwe? Because if you are so good in debating issues like this, issues that are factual, and try to dispute them and always refer back to history, can't we then resolve the problems in Zimbabwe so that we can avoid this mass exodus of people living in Zimbabwe?
I'll respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Please do.
You know, this is what happened in Zimbabwe, right? Where things were going wrong in Zimbabwe, everyone's like, well, you know, we'll let the Zimbabweans do it. You know, now things are going wrong in South Africa, or let's let the South Africans deal with it. You know, so they can burn their city, right? They can burn everything, and you know, it's okay. Let's let them deal with it. Right? This is the African way. This is why we're packetized by colonialism. I'm not going to play into that with you, right? Well, this is what happened to Zimbabwe, and it's going to take a generation to fix Zimbabwe, right? We are immigrants here, and we saw what happened in Zimbabwe happen, and we know now to speak up. When men like you show up and try and pull people apart.
What Dan is saying is that's all good and well, and you can cry me a river, but why is this his problem, and why is it the problem of South Africans?
Which problem?
The problem of Zimbabweans having to come and find somewhere else to survive and to exist and to be able to make a living and to be able to feed
Right.
their children. Why is that
Well-
South Africa's problem when what you're saying about Zimbabwe may be true, but you know, how can you then park that on our doorstep like we made the problem? That's what Dan's saying.
It depends how you look at it, right? We're buying from you, right? We're the largest investors. Black Africans are the largest investors in South Africa by far, particularly when it comes to assets owned by Black South Africans. We are your customers. We ride more taxis and live in more houses than any other grouping globally. Black Africans, it's not a problem. We're investing in what you believe in. We believe in you. We want this to work.
So Dan, how do you respond to the point that Patrick's making, that if it wasn't for Black Africans spending their money and making use of the township economy, there wouldn't be a township economy?
I don't fully agree with him, but we've been always saying that we do appreciate African trade more than European trade in this case. We would want to see African countries growing economically together. Maybe that will assist to avoid to see this kind of challenges that we are experiencing right now in Africa, which also affects us, by the way. And we don't have problem living with non-South Africans side by side. But you cannot have a situation whereby people cross through the river just next to the border post, walk straight into the country, which are unaccounted for. If people are here legally, so with their valid passports, do everything above the law legally, so we don't have a problem living side by side with everyone in this country. We grew up living with non-South Africans at our childhood, and we never had a problem with that. Up until there is this mass influx that now even the government seems to have lost control of it. And if South Africans, they don't stand up to challenge it, and then it's becoming a problem.
Gareth, can I?
Yes, sure.
Yes, can I come in there for a second? Okay, so Dan, my issue is with your approach and to finding a solution, what your solution is, right? You can't remove that many people from a country in a way that doesn't violate the laws of your own country, the humanity of those individuals, or cause significant social strife, right? Given the fact that Zimbabwe, Malawians, Zambians, Mozambicans are tightly integrated into the South African economy, and communities, homes, etc. Right. So our issue is your approach is wrong. It's not about removing people. It's about documenting people. I mean, can we look to documenting people as opposed to a forced removal of 10 million people from a country of 60 million people? You want to remove 1/5 of the country's population, right? And that's where the problem lies.
Yeah. What do you say, Dan? I mean, practically, because we have a government that can't do their job. So we can sit and complain about it, but we're never going to get them to do their job. I mean, just this morning, there was a news headline about how Home Affairs cannot print IDs and passports. Their offices shut down. So what are we going to do here? I mean, we can't just deport millions of people, can we?
You can start somewhere. Definitely. But if right now we are sitting at more than 10 million unaccounted for people, and then we sit and relax and do nothing, which means we are saying, no, even if it escalates to 30 million, it's fine. We must just wait up until the government smells the coffee and do something. We need to start shaking the government and, and make sure this comes to a stop. Yes, we understand that there are millions who are here already. How do you document them? How do you prevent a further influx? As you can see, they are coming in daily. It's not only Zimbabwe. He's quite correct when he's counting inside the countries. That is why we had an issue with the ZEPs. That why specifically Zimbabwe giving ZEPs? What about Malawi? What about Swaziland? Because those countries, we know the kind of poverty that they are living in. But why be selective on this one? Why? Simply because certain individuals, they've got business interests there, and then South Africans must suffer consequences for few individuals who've got business interests in those countries.
I
So,
love the
for the fact that we
organization-
cannot deport them does not mean that we should allow the situation to escalate even further.
So
Phumi?
I do love the fact that we are hearing Dan try and distance the Operation Dudula from all the videos we see of people in Operation Dudula videos doing all sorts of terrible things. I love that because it says to me that as an organization and as leadership of the organization, you can see what's wrong with all of that and you are working towards cleaning it up. And I really hope you do. I love the fact that you're saying that what you want is you want to be able to hold the government accountable. And so what I would love to hear you tell us about is what is your end game? Are you just going to be an organization of people that are marching and are putting memorandums of demand? Or are you going to be an organization of people that decides to participate beyond just that? Are you going to be part of the solution that says, what needs to change in our government and what can I do to change that? Instead of just sending a memorandum to Mpopalats, how do you become the mayor so you make the rules? So you make sure that the safety and security of the people in this country are working. What is the plan? What's the end game for Operation Dudula?
I love the question that you're asking, that yes, we'll keep on putting pressure on the government, but the question will be then, how do the same people who failed to deal with the issue for the past 25 years or so, if I'm not mistaken, and then what makes you believe that they'll solve it now? Will they have what it takes to deal with it now if they failed all these years? So our members on the ground, they are talking about that issue that we can remain civic movement, but maybe align with political parties that who are willing to listen to South Africans and take the issues head on, or we are going to go to polls ourselves and deal with the problem. So there are various options on that one, but at the moment, as it stands, it's a civic movement.
Dan, are there political parties who've made overtures to you? Are there political parties that you would consider working with?
At this moment, we haven't spoken to anyone. We are in the process of growing Operation Dudula, stabilizing it, because the reality of the matter is one that it's growing too fast, that it becomes a struggle to run after it and stabilize it. That is the reality that we cannot shy away from.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I answered your question direct.
And are there parties that you will not deal with? I mean, you've had some pretty public spats with the EFF, among others.
Yeah, we know definitely such parties we won't, because it doesn't make sense for us being part of the legislature where the law is made and then you encourage people to break the law and come into the country illegally through the river. So there's no way, if we are fighting for restoration of the law, and associate ourselves with such people, such characters.
All right.
Right,
Patrick, I'm going to let you have a word in here, because Dan said quite a lot there about the government and about political parties. What is the perfect outcome for you guys?
Well, our organization's aiming to create a fund that basically would invest in South African infrastructure paid for by Black Africans, right? And so, given the legal infrastructure, so the soft infrastructure, constitutional infrastructure that South Africa has, we feel it provides an adequate platform for Black Africans. Right, so that's Africans within the SADC area. They can create, we intend to create, first of all, medical facilities that can be used by the rest of South Africa. Right, we think it would work here. That's the starting point. Then you look at education, and then you can look at forms of other investments, property, etc. But predominantly healthcare and education can be delivered from within South Africa to the rest of the region, as the region then forms that. I mean, so there's a significant shortage of doctors across the region, right? Give an example, there are 3,000 optometrists in South Africa, and there are only 100 in Zimbabwe, 100 in Malawi, maybe 300 in Zambia. This is how bad things are. And so we intend to leverage South African human resources across the region, right? The investment by Africans is consistent and is endless. And so we're looking for partners
Patrick,
to work with on this program.
Do you think, and I'm going to be the devil's advocate here, do you
Great.
have a concern that there is a limited amount of resource available? Because this is probably something that, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Dan, but there's probably some concern among South Africans that the cake is only so big. You know, if you consider the way that specifically government treat the economy, the cake is only so big. We can't grow it. So we must each get a smaller and smaller slice of what there is. And
So
maybe there just isn't enough for everybody is often the way that people who think, particularly in closed systems, and you know, a lot of governments in Africa have thought as closed systems rather than as open ones. How do we expand that cake? Is that something that you have to fight against all the time? Is that, you know, when people talk about there are only so many optometrists, well, you know, you might argue, well, then they're not enough for Zimbabwe and Malawi. Sorry, we need them here in South Africa. That's where they're trained.
well, the problem is first of all the governmental view, right? I mean, so take the Limpopo situation where the governor, so the MEC comes out and says, well, you know, we've got to limit the number of people who come into these hospitals, right? As opposed to expanding the infrastructure, we're going to limit the number of people who come in here. So we've got to define which resource is limited. The limited resource is not financial. Africans can pay for healthcare. What's limited is the organization of these resources to enable the development and the servicing of the general African population. So that's it. South Africa, the South African Constitution has provided a platform that has created a little more stability in developing these assets than Zimbabwe, Malawi, Zambia, Mozambique, etc. have been able to, right? And so we've got to come back and say, wait, what's working? South Africa's working. Well, let's put more money into South Africa. Black Africans are putting money into South Africa to develop infrastructure that they can use. So healthcare, right, is ready for that, right? It makes a lot of sense to build up a multinational hospital for tertiary surgeries and that kind of thing in Limpopo, multiple, not even one.
Yes,
right. And so,
but you are asking South African taxpayers to fund that project.
Not at all. So we've already started raising funds in developing healthcare infrastructure that is funded by the Black Africans and used by everyone in Southern Africa. So never. So the South African taxpayer is only one entity, right? Zimbabweans.
Just on a point of order here, like you talk about Black Africans, are you not including white Africans here, or is that a whole other subject?
So Black Africa refers to a territory south of the Sahara. It's always been called Black Africa, right? And so,
as far as I know, it's called Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, Black is kind of a different discussion, but okay.
Right.
Am I included, or am I not as a taxpayer of Southern Africa?
If you're from South Africa, you're Black African as well. But the point is this: health.
You're starting a whole other conversation.
Now you're causing trouble for yourself.
No. Now this is causing dark.
Wait. So is it available to all individuals who want to be part of it that are Africans, that are African holding? So that hold African passports. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not talking about African passports.
I mean, I'm not talking about African passports and breaking up nationalities. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about using hospitals together. There are limited resources in the region, and South Africa has a stable enough environment, right, constitutionally, to where that investment can be enhanced. Now, the distance from Harare to Johannesburg is shorter than the distance from Cape Town to Johannesburg, right? Zimbabweans can, effectively, efficiently access healthcare from Johannesburg, and that creates jobs for South Africans.
All right.
The point here is
I'm going to
come
stop you
together.
there because I want us to have one final word for each of you. I'm going to let Dan go first. Dan, just because we've jumped in quite a lot here this morning, and I realized that we only got you on a little bit later. What are your final thoughts on this? And tell us again why people should give Operation Dudula a second thought, and why people might want to support, or why they might be afraid of Operation Dudula and what they're up to. Clarify the water for us here. Let's make sure that we don't misunderstand each other.
Yeah.
But we only have
Now,
a minute.
Operation Dudula, it's not a vigilante group. It's all about the laws being adhered to, people being in the country legally, abiding by our laws. That's as simple as that. We've been putting pressure on government, but unfortunately we seem to be hitting a rock. We cannot have a situation where South Africans depend on 350s, whereas your hospitality industry is 90% foreign employees there dominating. And then our children are stuck in the townships. They end up being hooked in wrong things, whilst their parents fought very hard to free this country. But what the gentleman is saying about this infrastructure investment, it sounds very nice when it's said, but the question will be one: are they then saying that it is okay, leave Zimbabwe the way it is, it mustn't develop, it mustn't grow, leave Malawi the way it is, it mustn't develop, it mustn't grow, South Africa will be the savior of the entire SADC nation at the expense of South Africans? Because I believe that any sort of investment that has to be made, it can be made in any of the countries of the SADC, where we maybe at some point we'll have to embark on a campaign in making sure that they start, attracting investment in their own countries, because we do realize the issue that there is a challenge in those countries. As much as they've got the audacity to come here and take our minister to court, but I've never heard even a single day where they went to the court in Harare and taken Nangwagwa to court.
All right, Patrick, you get the last word this morning. What do you want to finish up with? And based especially on the comments that Dan just left us with. Like, why not go and build these things in Malawi, Zimbabwe?
Well, I mean, well, why not build them in the Northern Cape, right? The population is in Gauteng. Gauteng is Africa's New York. It is Southern Africa's New York. We will all congregate here. Whether Dan and anyone else feels that, the growth of Gauteng needs to be limited and, offered only to South Africans, it's nonsense, right? We were cut off by colonialism, right? And men like Dan, want to carry on that culture and that heritage that was left with Africans. We've got to collaborate and accumulate somewhere, and that place is in Gauteng. First of all, we'll build the best hospitals here, right? And we'll look after each other the best we can here, and then diffuse that to the rest of the country, and the country, Southern Africa. And by the way, when I speak about Black Africa, I just refer to an area that's traditionally been called Black Africa in other texts. It's got nothing to do with being, black or white. I don't care about race at all. What I care mostly about is not looking for economic solutions from politics. Dan is a politician. Dudula is going to be in the next election allied to the PA. It's pretty clear, right? And these guys are going out and saying whatever they're saying, motivating people to do whatever. They're just politicians. There is no economic solution from politics. We've got to build the hospitals. We've got to build the roads. We've got to build the schools. We've got to correct the education system. And, stop listening to guys like that.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we had you both on today. I think it's important that we do all listen to each other. I hope you get your hospital built. I mean, Patrick, I think it would be a great thing for South Africa, and I think it would be a very much safer arrangement for foreign nationals to be able to seek medical advice in a place where they've also made an investment and where they have some skin in the game. I would like very much for us to continue this discussion at another point, and maybe we can have more organization around it next time. I'd be thrilled to hear what other ideas you and Dan have. But in the meantime, gentlemen, thank you very much. Dan, it's great to have you on the show. And Patrick, it's great to have you on the show. We will hopefully have you soon to fight each other another day.
Looking forward to that.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Dan. Well, Pums, not a boring hour, not by any stretch of the
It might have
imagination.
started off there, Gareth, with you feeling bad. Oh,
Oh, God, there
load
goes the
shedding.
power again. All right, let's get out of here. Before this load shedding drives me into the arms of Operation Dudula, because I swear to God, that's where I'm headed. I will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.